Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
Right now, I'm not seeing any red folders at all today. We did have the non-farm payroll on Friday, which is usually our big event for the month. There's a couple other smaller ones along the way, but right now there's no news that I'm seeing for Monday, nor for Tuesday. Wednesday looks pretty good up until about 10 o'clock, and we have some red folders on Wednesday. So right now, for the next couple of days, we're still pretty good shape. Let's check our map and see what's strong, what's weak right now. And right now I'm looking at the British pound and Japanese yen and the New Zealand are all strong, and the looks like the CAD, the euro, and the US, especially the US, is weak. So whatever pairs we look at, we're going to be traded against the US, the US dollar, and we'll take it from there. Let's go to our arrow charts. And first off, do we have any questions, comments before we get started here? Right now, I haven't seen anything that we're looking at, but we're going to be checking things as we go along. And we'll try and be as robotic as we can in our analysis so that we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again until we see the picture that we're looking for to take the trade.
Okay, I'm not really sure what it is you want us to look at. Al? Can everybody hear Al?
Yeah, here I am. I have my mic turned off. I was coughing, so I didn't want to cough in everybody's ear. Yeah, I saw the note. Maybe get some clarification on that. While we're doing that, we're going to be looking to see, I'm looking at primarily the 15-minute chart is what I generally look at and see what red and green signals we get on our little dashboard. I see here's a red one for the US Swiss. I'm looking at that right now. Remember, we said earlier we're going to be trading to the weakness of the US dollar. In this case, the US dollar is the first currency of the pair, and it looks like the price is going down. So that means that the dollar is getting weak, although it's weak right into a green zone. So we'll keep an eye on this one. But right now, I'm not seeing any real clear, let's jump on this thing at all. Right now, this could be like a bank induction. See what kind of range we have between the red and green folder. We have 19 pips. I'm looking for at least 50 pips before I start looking at taking trades. Right now, this is going sideways in roughly a 20 pip range. And if you're trying to get a third of that, it's doable, but it's also, you got to be pretty much right on the money to make that work. So I'd like to see a little bit more range on this one. And so we're going to move on to the next.
Hey, Al, I think I know what P is asking here.
Okay, all right.
You know how we look at the multiple time frames and you mark up your higher time frame, for example, on the 1 hour.
Yes.
Based on the trend of the 1 hour. Pia, when you're marking up your 5-minute time frame, you're marking it up based on the trend of the 5 minute. So whatever time frame you're on is the trend you're marking. And you might want to just recap why you're marking up the higher time frame.
Yeah, this is probably a pretty good example for what we're talking about here, Pia, and anybody else that's listening in. You can see, like, remember I just said, on this pair, I was looking at the range of here between this red zone, the inside of this red zone to the green zone. I have about 20 pips. I like to see on the higher time frame, and when I say higher time frame, I like starting on a 15-minute time frame or higher, like 15-minute, 1 hour, 30-minute. And that's usually my starting point. And I look to see, is there a zone between a red and a green where there really isn't much here? I want to see the price being in between that range. Now, this range from here to here was 20 pips on a 15-minute chart. Let's come over here and you see there's a higher pivot, higher low, or lower low, higher high. And this range here on this 15-minute chart is probably going to give us probably about 75 pips or so. There's 50 pips. I like seeing at least a 50. I like seeing somewhere around, it doesn't have to be exact, but somewhere enough for him to give us enough range. This range on this 15-minute chart would be the range I'd be looking at and consider this to be my higher time frame range, this one right here. So I would draw, let me get my moving averages up here. Let's see, template. I think load template, and here we go. So I pull up my chart, get my template on, sorry, because I want my moving averages in here. So as I look at this range was too close. There wasn't enough range in between to make me happy to take the trade. This range from this green zone to this green zone is, and so you see our price is in between this one. So this is my higher time frame. I'm going to take it right where the place right where it left the zone and right where it bounced off the green zone. And that's my higher time frame zone. This is what I'm going to be using for my targets. Basically, what we're saying is that this price is ranging between, on the higher, we have at least a 50 pip range between here. This one was about 60 plus some pips. And so of that range, I have a higher 25%, which is right in here. Here's the high upper 25% of the range. It's actually 26.4%, but we could call it 25. And then we have the lower 25% of the range. And I put a zone there. And the lower 25. This is where these are my areas where I'm looking for it to leave and to, ideally what we're talking about is we want the price, we're looking at the price going from this area up to this area with a stop in the middle. These are these two extremes of the price. And we're looking at it to bounce off of this area, leave the 25% zone, come up and tag the middle 3 bars here. So I'm going to put my range here. So these are my targets now. This is my target zone. These 3 lines right here. Again, this is all done with a higher time frame on a chart, 15 minutes or higher, generally speaking. Sometimes I can get it on a lower chart, but my starting point is a 15-minute chart. So this is my target area on its way up here. Now, oftentimes what happens is it leaves the 25% zone, it comes on up to this area, comes back down, retests it, comes back up, bounces around a bit, breaks on up to here. That's your ultimate target. Then from up here, it comes back down into here. So this thing could be ranging in this area. This is a sideways motion, and right now it's in the lower 25% of the higher range. So when the price bounces off the green zone, starts bouncing off, tries to pull out of the 25, comes back in, retests it, doesn't go as low as the last low, gives me a higher low, it starts drawing a wedge. We have a little bit of a wedge continuing right in here. Now this is on the higher time frame, but it still matters. Here's our upper trend line. Here's our lower trend line from way back here from where the origin started. Now we don't know where this thing's going to end. It could end up flat, it could end up a little bit down below, but somewhere around here it's going to bounce. Again, I bounced here, went out, came back down, bounced, came back down, came back in, bounced, but still within the 25%. Here it broke this zone. It came all the way down here, broke out. So now I'm looking at a little retest of the zone. Once I get the retest and it bounces out with a strong move out, even like this was kind of a strong move out, came back and retested, but it came back down in again. Now I'm going to my lower time frame chart, which I'm going to go to start with the 5-minute, and expand the chart out a little bit. And I'm going to put this thing under the microscope because I'm looking to see where. Now you see that all these lows right here, it came in, bounced, came in, bounced, came in, bounced out, came back in, retest. This was a little bit of a fake out right here. This happened last night. This would have been a point where I would probably been looking at maybe to take the trade off of that bounce. And it pulled back out again. This is where I probably would have been looking to go long. Now, this one didn't work out. This one wouldn't have worked out very well, but you still have this trend line right now. This trend line is now still in effect. It hasn't broken through this trend. Once it can break through this trend, you can see where it's making a high, lower high, lower high. Now it's making a lower low. So now this whole area, this thing has this one, and I'm now going to be looking for a new low here. It's bouncing off of our green zone. I'm going to be looking for it to bounce up again. It's probably going to be going sideways in between this motion. And then once it breaks here, breaks this trend line, comes out of the 25, this lower shaded area, comes out of there, and then comes back in. Then we can take another shot at maybe taking the trade for it to come up and hit this target and this target. But remember, we drew these off of the higher time frame, and now I'm all the way down here on a 5-minute chart, I believe I am, and waiting for it to do what it did here once again. And that's pretty much how we determine between the higher time frame, the 15-minute or higher for the orange lines, and then once we get that, we can come back in and reverse, find our new Fibonacci lines. Take this one off. And now we can see, like right on this one, for example, this one, when this one came out here, we had the nice little bounce. I've been looking at taking this, but we have this trend line now. So it's developing this trend line. But once it breaks out of here, I'm going to be looking for a strong move up out of the 25 zone somewhere, as we don't know where it's going to stop. I'm going to guess it's probably going to stop somewhere right around in here. And then look for the pullback towards this trend line, bounce off of some point down below, higher than this point, be able to get a bounce, and then look for it to go higher up to this zone. So we're looking at now, we're going to be looking at from this, we're going to be looking at a move here, out of the zone. We're going to be looking at a move kind of back in to retrace, to retest the trend line. Here's our strong move out. Here's our retrace back to probably somewhere around the, in this bigger case, we'd probably be looking at somewhere around the 50% line, possibly. Maybe it could be all the way down to 76. Would not surprise me. Get a bounce. And then we can be looking at, say that was our first move out. Here's our second. Then we're looking for the next wave of this to be going up to into our target zones, which is the first one. Here's the second one. Here's the third one. And it'll probably bounce back and forth around in here. But this would be the target then, which would be, it would be like your wave one. Here's your wave two retracement, and here's your big wave three. This is one we're going to be trying to grab off of here. But it's got to come out of here first. Expect to pull back, because the reason we have to use this now is because this was already breached. This was already taken, and this is still our lower 25% zone. Hopefully that explains your question. And let's keep looking for other trades. But that's the pattern. That's the picture we're looking for. We're looking for a break, a retest. This area has to hold. If it's broken, we have to start all over again. Wait for the break, come back for the retest, hold, and then with this, you'll be able to get your 7 pips, or there's 10 pips right there. You'll get 10 pips. You pretty much want to make sure this thing comes out. But if you can get here, you have there's your first 10 pips, so you get right back up to the start of where this thing came back out. That would be your target one, and you could do it with probably only an 11 pip stop. So this would be like almost like a 1-to-1 trade if this starts to develop into this pattern. So I'm going to take that one off. I'm just going to hold on to that one, keep an eye on it. That was the US Swiss. And look at Bitcoin, please. So Bitcoin already, Bitcoin? Really? Let's see. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, so Bitcoin's going to be, I think Bitcoin's going to be living around the $35,000 to $40,000 area for a little while here. It hasn't been getting a lot of help from the newsmakers that keep on the Elon Musks of the world are keeping the price of this thing down right now. But if you look at this on a higher time frame, you can see it still has some upward pressure. I'm on a 15-minute chart now. I haven't figured out on the currencies. I'm looking at a 50 pip move. On the on Bitcoin, all that, I haven't totally figured out what range I'm looking at, because this thing moves in $100 moves when you're talking about a $40,000 entity. So, but I would probably still be looking at, see what's the range on this one here. Remember that you have to move the decimal place over 2 points. So this is a $1,320 move, basically. That's quite a bit of a run move. The average candle on this one is, let's see, the average 15-minute candle right now. What's the average candle on this 15-minute Bitcoin? Average true range, average daily range on Bitcoin is, looks like it's about, I'm going to say about $1,600 is the average true range on this thing, which is a pretty big range. I'm not sure what the dollar amount. I think it's like a 0.01 move is the dollar for dollar or dollar for 10 cents or something like that. You have to be careful with the value of these. But anyway, right now, as I look at this thing, I look at it at a higher time frame. This would probably be I like this as a bounce in here. I looked at this to be the target. I would say that be looking at, this would be the Fibonacci range I'd probably look at, not knowing what the values are, because like I said, I haven't worked it out yet. But I'd be looking pretty much right at this area to here to draw the fibs, the higher time frame fibs. And right now, here's the upper 25. Here's my upper 25 there. Here's my lower 25. And right now it's in the middle, but this is the target zone. Now I'll be looking to see, is it going to continue? We have a trend, we have a pivot here, lower high, lower high. There's our trend line. Off of this, there's our trend line from the high to low. Here's our trend line, low to high. Here's the range that it's playing in right now. It's playing inside. This is the range it's playing in right in here. You're looking at probably a $1,450 range. Go to mark our middle zones, which is where it's playing right now. There's a 61. There's the 50. It's right at the 50, between the 50 and 61 right now. There's this one. Here's our middle zone. This is our target zone, which is where it is. It came down, made a new low, came back in target. Now the question is it going to come back down and retest this trend line, or is it going to break and come up again to the upper 25%? And with that, you just really don't know. That's where you check the moving averages and see where it is. Come down to a lower time frame chart. There's a 15-minute. I would say, look, here's a strong move up. Here's a pullback. Here is this beginning to form your M that we often talk about. With an M, then you might start getting another pullback, move down, pull back, move down, retest, pulls up, pulls back, retests. And this could be bouncing back and forth between this trend line. You could possibly redraw your fibs. Again, this is all subjective, but this is what I do. Objects, get rid of the fib lines and do that. And now I'm looking for where's the strong move. Here's a strong move. Here's the pullback. New fibs. It came up. Here's this range. It pulled back to 61% pullback. Came back up and it's retesting the 78 or this thing, the 11.8. Retest the trend line. I would say you could be looking at maybe shorten it here. Here's your target. Go long here. Here's your target. Go short here. Here's your target. You see the target's getting smaller and smaller as you get towards the end of this thing. So I'd say right now it's range bound between these two trend lines. And if you take it short, put your stop up. I would put my stop above the red zone. And if I take it long, I put my stop below the green zone. And so this one would be, I would be doing probably a little break of the trend line, could be a head fake, could keep on, and it could keep on going short, but your stop area would be, I would keep it below this lower green. At this point, as it's trending lower and higher, I would be just moving everything down a little bit towards the trend line. Breaks to the top, go short, comes to the bottom, go long, and wait until it breaks out of these zones. And once it breaks out of this, if it breaks out of the upper zone, comes up, breaks out, and retest this, then we're looking at this for the target. If it breaks out of the bottom, comes back, retest the trend line, now we're looking for this one to come in to play. But as you get closer and closer to the end, you're going to be getting less and less profit margin on those trades. So that's what I have on Bitcoin. Any other questions?
Is there a question?
Yeah, Kevin's got one there. He's talking about a gold signal that he got in one of his groups of traders there. He just wanted you to take a look at gold. I mean, they're saying that there would be a buy on gold with a take profit at like 1896. I don't know.
Let's take a look at gold.
We'll do an analysis on gold, no problem.
Yeah, we can do the analysis on it here. Here's our gold chart. So let's get this on a higher time frame. This is good to do on Monday mornings. I'm not in a hurry to take trades on Monday mornings. Sunday night to Monday, the big guys are still trying to take their positions. This is a range this is what I drew from the last time I looked at the gold. It's on a 1 hour chart. I used this range from up here. You can see the extents of these blue zones. This is my higher time frame. Here, and see right now it's right back into the middle. Came up, tagged the blue one, the blue zone. That's back to the middle. It's coming back up to retest it. Because it's come up and retest it. And eventually, it's probably going to form where we're looking at the M formation. Let me get my objects on here. Fib. Let me lead the fib lines. So this is my range, blue zone to blue zone, orange lines in the middle, get down to a lower time frame, expand the chart. And I'm looking for wedges and price action in the extreme areas of the zones. So right now, nothing real significant. It's still going sideways in between this red zone and the green zone. Price-wise, that's at 1887 to 1882. That's only a $7 move or $5 move. So that's pretty tight. That's a pretty tight range. So I don't see any point in even trying to take a trade in this area like this. I'd like to see more of a commitment to the upside. Now, our moving averages are in the correct direction. We have everything's above the 200 moving average. It's above the arrow moving average. It's above the 13. It's above the 5, and it's above the 62. Actually, 62 and the 30 and the 200 are right neck and neck. They're at the same price. So right now, this does have upward pressure. I would be looking for it to, let's see, where's my zones here? Get my zones back in. May want to redraw this possibly. This was probably the pullback. Let's see how much room do we have here between this one and this one. That's only a $7 move. That's pretty tight for gold for me. This is our zone. This is the zone we're looking at. This one doesn't. We're not playing with this spot right now. So that one's off the picture. So yeah, this is the zone we're looking at. It's going to take some heat. It's probably going to get a bounce off of here. Oftentimes, when you get this level on a level with a little space in between, the first level will get taken away. The second level will hold. So I would say this would be a potential target area to the upside. But once it starts breaking through, before it gets up to this blue zone, you're probably going to get a little bit of a bounce, just like we had over here. Here's this strong move up, pull back, came back up, rejected, made a lower, here's a low, lower low, lower low, lower low. We have a bottom trend line over here to the downside. And then we have a trend line. Also, we're making lower highs on the upside. Now here we had here's up the high, came back down, retested it. This point and this point, here it made a high, here it made a lower high, but just barely, and then it dropped off. So this point right here, if you look at this level, and you come all the way over here, you can see it's still lower than this. This is where this red zone is. This is where all the sellers came in and took over control. So right now, I would be expecting to see this zone to hold on the upside. So if you were to take this, you have the break of the trend line right here. Here's our anchor. Here's our hit. Here's our third hit that was breached. I actually pull that up just a little bit higher there. Breach, close above. Right now, it's coming back to retest the trend line. Here's the break, and this zone, this Fibonacci zone held. Now it's retesting this trend line. So I would say if we got a close above, we had the break of the trend line, came back, retest the trend line. If we get another break, if we get a higher close on this is where I go down to my 1 minute chart, and I'm expanding this thing. Now I'm looking for the tightest entry I can get, as I can scroll this thing up here. I'll be looking for the tight. Here's our trend line, this orange line right here. Break, came back down into it. Here was our head. This was our head fake. Came back down, came back, broke the trend line. Now I'm on a 1 minute. I like to see 5 minute closes on the 5 minute candle, not so much the 1 minute. It has a 5 minute, at least you have a little bit more commitment to it. And so right now, this trend line is still holding. We have a little bit of a wedge up here. This is like a secondary wedge. Here's a high. Here's an anchor. Here's a hit. Here's a hit. This is all above the major trend line that's breaking. So right now it's trading inside this little range. We don't know if it's going to break to the upside or the downside, but we do know that the U.S. dollar is weak, and gold is being traded against the U.S. dollar. So the U.S. dollar is weak. And so with it being the second currency of the pair, that means if it goes down, the dollar is getting stronger. If the dollar is weak, gold is going to be in control to the upside. So I would say I'd probably favor this to the upside based on what our heat map was showing. And that was that the dollar is still weak on all four quadrants. So now that's not compared to gold, but it is compared to the other currencies. So right now it's still kind of range bound between here and here. It's starting to break. Now this one we have, here's a high, here's the anchor. So here's the anchor, here's the anchor, here's a lower high. I'm just going to take this on down. This is putting the microscope under it. Here's a low, here's a higher low. Let's take it right about here. Here's our M formation. Here's our move up. Now this pivot got broken. The moving averages are starting to cross. We have the cross of the 5 and the 13. I say right now this thing is still in a pullback, probably coming back down to. Now we don't really know where this angle is going to stop, because here's the rejection of the trend line. We don't know how far it's going to go down. We're waiting to see where is here's the anchor, see where the middle hit is, and then see where it's going to break somewhere out here near the end of this whole move. So right now it's still not ready to. I'm not ready to. Wouldn't be ready to jump into this thing, because we don't know where this is going to stop. It could be, and my guess is probably going to stop and retest down here. So I would just eyeball it. After each candle, I'd eyeball it to see where it would be right at the bottom, where these cross right at the bottom, where this candle would come and touch. Somewhere along the way, this thing's going to be tested. This is an energy point right here, and it's got the moving averages moving in the right. The moving averages are moving in the direction to go short. We're on a 1 minute chart, so once these flip around again, if we get the green crossing the yellow to the upside, then it may make another run for the upper part. Right now, I'm looking at this as a pullback. I still wouldn't want to jump into this trade. And that's so right now it's range bound. I'd stay away from personally. I'm not trading in that range. I'd want to see a little bit more commitment. I may be looking at maybe a buy down here and maybe sell when it gets up here, but it's getting pretty tight. It's getting tighter and tighter as you go to the right of the chart. So that's like I said, this trend line right here, we don't know where it's going to stop. It could stop right down here with that. This could be the third hit on this trend line to go back on up. So, but right now you're range bound. This is our range going sideways. Let me keep an eye on it, but to me, it's not tradable. And goes that one. And let's see, what else do we have here?
Yeah, based on our analysis and the way that we trade, there's no trade here at all.
No. We can take a look at the NASDAQ. Here's 15-minute NASDAQ. Here's our range right here. Now we have a nice little range on this. Let's see what the range on from this green zone to this upper zone on my 15-minute chart. That's a $265 move on the NASDAQ. And that was from, this is the overnight session. Let me go to a higher time frame, see what we have on the higher time frame. You can see, again, you're looking to see where was the origin of the strong move. This is like a rocket ship, came right on up and came right into this one dropped. So right here's this thing's still moving to the upside. It's got upper strength. This was, let's see, where's the daybreak here? This is all Sunday night's action. This is Monday. Actually, no, this is Friday. That was Friday's action. This is Sunday, Monday right in here where we're at right now. But I would be looking at the zones. So where are my zones here? I think I already have them drawn. Let's see. See what we're going to do. I'm going to put an orange line right here so I don't lose my spot. And we're going to move this thing over to here to extend it out. This was the zone we drew back on Friday. This is the upper zone. And you see it's right up into the red, right up the upper zone. Now it's looking to break to the upside, but it still has to kind of get through this. So this is my new upper zone. It's not really new, it's just a continuation. I'm just expanding it out here. If I can grab this thing. Right about in there. Take this one out, put that away because we don't use that one. This is our middle third. This is our lower 25. Here's our upper 25. It's in the upper 25 going higher. And so right now this thing has some momentum on the 1 hour chart. It's got everything's in the right direction to go higher. So here's our higher time trend line right in here. Here's the origin, here's our anchor, here's the hit, here's our trend line. This is the range it's going to be playing in from here to here. And then the upper range, it's right now you can see where here's the high from Friday or from last week's high. Broke it a little bit, pulling back. So I'm saying this thing may go higher today based on what I'm looking at here. And if I go to a daily chart, we'll see what it looks like on a daily chart. Strong move down, came back up. It's retesting this. It's retesting this little wick right in here. It's retesting. Let me draw that. This is a daily chart, so this little wick is going to have some play in it. If it goes higher, if it's going to go up higher, it's going to have to break through this wick, and then we're looking at this target right in here. If it breaks this wick and closes above it, here's the next stop in the road. Put this back on a 15-minute chart and see how far that is. And there's some room to the upside on that, but it's going to have to break through. So it's got to break through some barriers. It's got to break through this red zone. It's got to break through this, and then the target would be right up in here. That would be the ultimate target, and then I'd be drawing a new Fibonacci line. But that's a $109 move on the NASDAQ, so there's a lot of room to the upside on that. But it's going to take some heat. It's going to get some bounces off of this area. Monday morning, it's trying to find out where it's going to stabilize and where they're going to take it for the week. So this is our sideways range. These are our barriers. Nothing to conclude. We'll hang on to this one. We'll go back to it later on. Any other next question? Pretty much on Mondays, I'm just searching to see where things are going to stabilize. I do most of my trading. Most of the trades I take are on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's where I find out my best success is. And if you can get a couple good trades on those days, you've got your profits for the week, and you're good to go. This is the zone. This is a sideways range. We're going right here between the blue zones and going sideways. Take it down to a 5-minute chart. And you see there's not a lot of, now from here to here, you're looking at it, that's a $46 move. I mean, that's with a 0.1 contract, that's a $46 with a 0.1, or the 0.01. $1 for every 0.01 position size. Questions, comments? Matt, do you have anything you want to add? Anything you want to present? Anything you want to talk about?
I'm just looking for a nice setup here.
I do like the indexes during this session when you get down a little bit closer towards the, well, we're at the 8 o'clock hour right now. A lot of times between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, we'll start seeing some early pre-market moves on the indexes. Let's check out the S&P, see what that's probably showing. I mean, I guess that's going to be pretty much the same as what we have with the NASDAQ. Right now, the NASDAQ's basically been in a sideways range for the last couple of weeks, which is good for scalping, but you have to be in the right position, in the right area for it. You don't take a lot and don't go for a whole lot, just go for a few pips, a few dollars moves, and with larger lot sizes, and you can become very profitable. Template. And I'm going to look at my higher time frame. Let's start with the fact this seems to be, after the strong move, I'm looking for where is it pulling back. And this is a huge move here. And you see it had a lot of range from, this is on a 1 hour chart. This is all the way back on the first of the month. So this is the beginning of the month. The low came in first by about $64 worth of move here. Now it's right up and retesting where the month opened. And so right now, this is really the range that we're looking at. There's my moving averages. And you see where it came and crossed over the 200, came back down, crossed back over the 200. I'm going to be looking at from here to, I'm going to take it, since the fact that we have this high, and this high was just it was rejected off of this. So I'm going to draw, and we're in an uptrend. So I'm going to draw this. I'm going to be looking for pullbacks to retest. So I'm going to take it from this low, which is right here. I'm going to take it up to this high, which is right here. So right now we're looking to see, is this thing going to continue making new highs? If it does, we're just going to readjust this trend line here. If it keeps, but we know we have this little zone right in this area. But for right now, this is a price that got rejected. It poked its nose up. It did make a little bit high, so we're just going to note that. And we're going to take this in the upper 25. Now, we don't know how much higher it's going to go, but my guess is it hit up here and tried to pull back to the lower 25. Did not close below there. So that's that was something that I said I want to see it close below the 23. Here's my target zones on the pullback. That's the first one. This is the second one right here. This is the third one right here. And then we're going to draw the lower 25 because that signifies our sideways range. I said basically what I'm doing is I'm determining what's the range that's going sideways, and it's going sideways in between the two blue zones. And if it's going sideways, it's going to trend inside that sideways range. I'm on a 1 hour chart. It's going to be trending. You can see here's a strong move down. We still have a little bit of rejection right now. If you look into a 5-minute chart and expand this, these zones haven't changed. The only thing that changed is you can see it's deep into the blue zone. Here's our high. Now we don't have a strong rejection. I'm going to see a stronger rejection off of that. Yeah, a strong rejection here. This is where it came down and broke out of the 25. Now it's coming back up to retest it. So we really have another zone range inside here. But until it breaks and closes with a more down or closes the upside, then we're going to have to just be patient. Right now it's in the upper part, lower part. We can actually probably even draw another zone. The fact is so deep into this area. That's a $15 move, which is a little tight for if you're looking for a $5 profit on a 10 with a $10 stop. You'd have to be all the way back down here before you could take the trade to go up. So right now, this is kind of range bound inside this 25% higher time frame zone. Again, it's not, we're just determining where it's going to. Here's a low, here's a higher low. Here's our wedge on the upper part. And we have pretty much of a flat top on the top here. So be looking for, we have this little range right here, and then we have where it started changing the direction. We started getting a little bit more push to the upside. So from this point to here, I'd be waiting for the pullback. Let me take my fibs off, because right now it's still ranging inside here. Now, here's the question. Would there be enough room if it comes back down to this line or to this moving average? If it came back down here, is there enough room to take the trade to the upside? That would be a $10 target, and you'd be looking at probably a $6 to $10 stop. This would probably be almost like a 1-to-1 trade if it came back down and retested this. We do have a little bit sharper angle off of this one. You see how the angle here's off this bounce. It bounced, took this out, and now it's got a little bit sharper angle in this range. And you see that this trend line here is now following the moving averages. It's following this blue moving average. If it came back down to this one, again, would you have enough room to where the target would be? That'd be your 5 pips. That's a very tight target. I wouldn't want to play with that one. I'd want to see it break. I'd want to see it break this trend line, come back down, have this one hold. This would be where the head fake would probably be. And you could take a shot at it, but I wouldn't take it up here. I'd wait till it pulled back again. Or if it goes in and breaks this area and then pulls back. But right now, it could be making new highs. And I'm not sure if there's another high. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything up there on the 5-minute. If there's another zone above this or not. This may be right near the all-time high right now. In fact, I think it is right near the all-time high. So if it breaks what was the all-time high, if that's what this is, I think it is. Let me double check the daily. Yeah, pretty much. If it breaks the all-time high, it's going to make a new all-time high, but we don't know where that's going to be. Or eventually the all-time high is going to take a huge drop and huge correction. So if it breaks it, how high is high? Nobody knows. It could go up another $1,000, but it could also use this point as that. You don't want to be the last trader to take the trade at the highest to go long right before the big move down. Wait for the pullbacks and make sure you have enough room for a target to where the target gets tested.
And that's where patience comes in.
Yeah.
Because you really don't want to position yourself incorrectly when you're dealing with any of the indexes.
And if you're on, I don't care if you're on a monthly or a yearly chart, there's somebody somewhere out there got the perfect sell at the high, and somebody took the opposite position, got the worst possible buy at the high before everything tanks. You don't want to be that last person. Let somebody else be that person on either side of it.
Absolutely. Because trading's a zero-sum game, guys, at the end of the day. So it's all about just mastery of what you're doing on the charts. I'm looking for a buy setup on CAD yen, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, let's take a look. You'll
Yeah, I've
say
got
there's nothing here yet.
no.
Guys, before we move off of the S&P, there's a question in the Q&A. On the 1 minute chart, Al, the question is, why did you start your Fibbo from the bottom of the money zone and not the wick?
Why do I do it from the bottom of the money zone and not the wick? Well, I generally do it off the wick. Sometimes I can't see the wick. You're talking about the Fibbo, the fib line?
Yeah, on the 1 minute chart, I guess.
It may have just been an oversight, possibly. On the 1 minute, on the Fibonacci on the, I'm assuming they're talking about this point. I thought, well, this is pretty, I'm sure that is on the top of the wick. Looks like it is. Here's my Fibonacci line. I think I got it on the end of the wick.
Is that what you're talking about, Daniela?
I generally use the wicks if I can find the wicks. Sometimes the wicks are kind of hidden. I got to really expand it out to be able to see where the wicks stop when I get these shaded areas like that. But I usually try, if this is the point I'm using, I'm going to use the top of that wick.
So that's like the next question then. How precise should these be then?
I make it as precise as I can. I make things as precise as I can.
It was the last pull up. I guess it went from the bottom up. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Let me see. My Fibonacci. I mean, if I look at my Fibonacci, I have to see where did I draw this thing? If you're looking at the higher time frame, I mean, if I'm drawing with the higher time frame, I'm definitely trying to find the wicks. I sometimes just can't see them because by the time I get them so.
Yeah, no, she's talking about the 1 minute.
Yeah, well, I always use the top of the wick. I try to use, if I have a green zone, I usually try and use the lowest wick of the candle that leaves the zone. Let me see if I can, like this candle right here was this candle. I mean, there may have been a couple other little wicks, like here's the lower wick, here's the lower wick. This is the candle that closed and left the zone. So I'd be using the wick of this candle. Now I'm not sure I can see where it is on here, on this trigger chart.
It's okay.
It looks to me like this is the wick right, this is the bottom of the wick right here. So I would use this wick to this wick right up in there. That's what I would try to do. And I just try and make it as precise as I can. I mean, the more precise you are, the more accurate your analysis is going to be. If you're within the spread's worth of this distance, you're probably close enough.
So it's just basically an oversight.
Yeah.
Couldn't see the wick properly.
Yeah, but I try and use the bottoms of the wicks is what I try to do. So if you're anywhere close to that, you'll be fine. This is not an exact science, but you try and make the science as exact as you can. And so that's that. Now, what you were talking about something, Matt? Which one were you? Oh, you have something Canadian?
Yeah, no, I was talking about the CAD yen, but actually everything was backwards. It actually went short. So
okay.
No worries. It was awesome. Actually, I had the wedge set up and everything, and I was looking, and my analysis kind of said, "All right, we might go long," and then all of a sudden it breaks down to the bottom. So there's no loss for me because I didn't take the trade yet. But
I'm not a huge fan of the yen pairs, just because the calculations are a little bit different because it's 100 yen to $1 versus $1 for $1 for the other currencies. So that does throw your equations off a little bit. Plus the yens are just, I don't know. I'm okay. I'll trade them occasionally, but if I don't trade the yen pair, I'm not totally upset about that.
You're not heartbroken. I'm with you, Al.
Yeah, there's too many other options out there. You just have to wait another 5 minutes for something else. Here's an Aussie New Zealand. So we have an Aussie New Zealand short on the 15. Let's take a look at that one. And expand it out. Put my moving averages on before I do anything, before I draw, because as soon as I do, I'll have to reload it again. So this is my, so see, where am I moving out? So my first eye is, where's the 200? Is the 200 trending up? It's trending up. Where was the last breach of the 200? Down here. Here's a range. I'll probably still be looking at this range where it came back down to retest it. Now the question is, Aussie, now do I have 50 pips from here to here? I've got 37. That's a little bit tight. I would prefer to go with this one, even though this zone is in the middle. But you're going to find out this zone is going to be in the middle of this range, and I'll bet you're going to find some orange lines that I'm going to be drawing that are going to fall right into the middle of this. So let's take a look. So we have our upward trend. Here's the straw move up. Here's the retracement. Here's our trend line. Here's the bottom of the wick, as best I can draw it. Here's a higher low. Here's a higher low. Here's a higher low. Here's a higher low. I'm going to use this area for my trend line. Boom. There we go. This is our range from here to here. Now I can see that it's breaking this trend line, but it's also breaking right into a green zone. So this little pivot right here, now I'm just going to draw the Fibonacci, but I'm going to use it from this point, from the wick, on up to the wick. And here's my upper 25, which you see where it came right up into the upper 25, rejected it. So that area has some value. Insert my shape. Here's my rectangle. Here's my upper 25. Here's my zero line. This is the top of the move. Here's the end of my day. This is where it's going to be trading somewhere inside this range today. This area got rejected. This is all pretty much from the overnight session. Had a pretty big move from, well, actually this is from Friday's session. So here's Friday's move. This was this was the actual low between Thursday and Friday. And I think you've got a little bit of a higher, this is the candle that left the zone. I'm going to take this, here's my lower 25. This is our range. This is our sideways range between the blue lines. And I'm going to find my targets. Here's my target. Here's my 38. Here's my 50. Here's my 61. Okay, now I've got my higher time frame sideways motion drawn. I've got my extreme ranges, the high extreme and the low extreme. I have my targets in the middle, which is right now it's in the middle, and it also is breaking this trend line. So what do we do with that? Came up to the 23, came back down, came out of it, tested the first target area, but rejected it. Came back up, we got a little bit of a wedge right up in here. This is on our higher time frame. So here's our high. Here's our first hit. Here's our third hit right here. There's our wedge. And now we had the lower trend, it broke. And it broke right into this. So right now I'm looking at this thing is trending to the downside. But first, before I do anything, I'm going to see what's strong between the Aussie and the New Zealand. Come over here. New Zealand's strong. Aussie is not as strong. New Zealand is showing some strength to the Aussie, but they're both in the upper three areas. So basically, the New Zealand is a little bit stronger, but not by a lot. I'd like to see a little bit stronger range on that, but we have what we have. The Aussie is the first currency of the pair. New Zealand's the second. If the New Zealand dollar was short compared to the Aussie, which it is, we'd be looking for strength to the downside of this move, which is what we're experiencing. But now it's experiencing, we've got this zone right here, which is kind of in the way of everything. But if I go to a lower time frame, I go to bring this down to a 5-minute chart, you can see I had the rejection of the upper zone. Here's our strong move down, came into our zone. We have this target zone, we have this target zone. I'm going to draw the fibs from here to here, and I'm going to start looking for pullbacks. Now, here comes the question, is that how much of a pullback does it have to pull back to before, if this is going to be my target, which it probably would be, because when we determine this is a zone, this is where this thing bounced, this is a target. If it we had the breach of the trend line. It hasn't really retested the trend line yet, but it did break through this first target area, but we couldn't get into it yet because we didn't have confirmation. So right now I'd be looking at a pullback, wherever the low is. The pullback is right here to this, the 23% line. Here's my, I want to see a pullback to the 50 to the 23 zone, which is going to be, if I can get, there's my shape. Come on. Here's my pullback zone. Here's the 50%. Here's the 23%. It pulled back into the 23%, bounced off the moving average. We had the break of the trend line, broke through the 200 moving average, came back, retested the 200 moving average, and now it's working on the way down. If this is my target, I want to see 15 pips before I get in. I've only got 7. This thing's going to have to go all the way up here to pretty much retest this trend line before I've got enough room to take the trade based on my criteria. I want to see a 15 pip target. I'm trying to get 7 pips out of it. If I were to jump into this trade right now, and I went short on it right now, I've got 2 pips before I hit this area right in here. This is the next low it's going to have to penetrate. That's only 3 pips away from where it is right now. So this green zone right now is holding true. This would be our lower target zone based on this bounce. And plus you have all this green area here that you'd have to get through. There's just not enough room to take the trade. Although everything looks like it should work out, the problem is there isn't enough room. There isn't enough profit margin in order to take the trade. This little area right here is going to be a problem. This is where the last price was rejected before it hit the trend line. Hit the trend line rejected it. Now it's coming back down. This is actually your new range right in here. But on the bigger picture, these are our target zones. But by the time it gets down to this range, it's probably going to be looking more of a bounce to the upside to retest this. So if I get a bounce down here, I'm going to reverse positions. If I get a strong move out off of this bounce, then I may be looking for a reversal. But right now, the whole range between here and here, you've only got 15 pips. Where do you want to try and get in? You have to wait for a pullback with the confirmation that moving averages are still in your favor before you take the trade. So right now, although it may look good, there isn't enough room to get enough profit margin out of it to take the risk. And that's the Aussie New Zealand. Any questions? Did I complicate anything? Is it clear what I'm trying to say here? Speak now. Because if it's still kind of foggy and you don't understand it, today's a good day to ask those questions, because we're not, and we're going to be looking for trades, but we can take some time today to, tomorrow may be a little different story as things start coming into play. But this is, although it looks good, we had a nice little break here, but even with this break off of this one, you still only had 8 pips. You could barely have gotten your 5 pips out of it with the spread. So that's not really a good doable trade. Here's the CAD yen that Matt was talking about, I think. He was talking about the CAD yen.
Yeah, I was earlier. She broke to the downside, so.
But this is our Sunday, Monday range right here. This is Friday of the 4th. Now we're on the 7th, so this is today's range. Here's the money zone. And you can see here's Friday's money zone right in here. And you can see where it starts, which is right where this green zone was being tested. Now, do we have the range off of this move? Now should be on a 15-minute chart. I'm on a 15-minute chart. Do I have the range? Do I have 50 pips? In this case, probably need a little bit more because of we only have 26 pips. So again, I don't want to be taking that. Right now it's 2 range bound going sideways basically from the middle of Friday, from the overnight high to the overnight low, 34 pips. I need it to break through here, maybe form another zone, get me down to the 50 if it goes to the downside. And then maybe you can catch a pullback because we have all these red zones up above. We have a few. I favor this to the downside, but I want to see this break giving me the range so that I have a 50 pip range from here down to here, wherever that may be. There's 45. We need to go about another 5 more. This is just projections. This is sort of the range I'm going to see. I want to at least see this area here get broken, giving me the 50 pip range. That means this green zone should go away. It gets broken, comes back down, forms another green zone. Now we have the room from this point down to wherever this may end up being, somewhere down along in here. So until that happens, there's nothing there. Next one. Let's see. Let's take a look at our German 30. We haven't talked about that one yet today. I'm going to redraw this one. Put my template up. Load. I'm starting to get a little slow here. Here's our range. Let's see. Do we have a? This is the first range that captures my eye. Here's our 200 moving average. Let's go to a higher time frame first. Here's our 15-minute chart. You can see it's in an uptrend. Here's our 200 moving average. It did get broken here. Here was the break. Here's the new. If I look at this, I like this range right here where the 200 got broken, it got rejected. There's a $120 move in that, or 120 euro move. It's a nice little range, and it also got rejected up here. I would be apt to draw it from here to here. That's where this is all Friday. This is all Sunday, Monday. So this is the overnight session right in here. So from the overnight session, it came back down, pulled up. Right now, this is in somewhat of an uptrend. All of our moving averages are going up. Here's our 15-minute chart. Here's our top zone. Again, trying to get this thing as tight to the pip as I can. Draw my zones. Now this thing is in an uptrend, and it did make a new high. I don't have a new target up here because it looks like it's making all-time highs again. We have a little bit of a trend line from here to here to here. Here's our trend line. Here's our upper trend line. That's making, here's a high, here's a higher high, here's a higher high, here's a higher high, and there was the rejection of the trend line. We had a little bit of a breach here. And so right now, this little zone right in here is holding. You know, I should draw a little parallel where it catches that other wick. You can do that. That's a little channel, that is an upper channel that is actually drawn. And you could probably take it back to this one over here and see if it still holds. Not bad. Let's draw a little parallel channel. So that way, if it comes up into this channel, it's probably going to be rejected. Here's our upper line. And here's the upper 25 right now. If it keeps, and it's got some upward pressure. We're looking at buying the pullbacks to go up higher. Come back down here on, since we don't really have a zone limit up here, I'm going to be primarily interested in the pullbacks to the 20, 38, 50, 61. There's that one. Again, this is on a 15-minute chart. Here's the zone. 38, 50, 61. Those are our target to the pullback. There's a 61. We don't know where the high is going to be because right now we don't have a high to look at. If I go to a higher time frame, you can see there's nothing there. So I'm going to come back to my 5-minute chart. I have my higher time frame zones. Here's a high. Here's a pullback coming into. Here's the upper. Just take the upper 25% on this one right now. That's where it is. We can see it a little bit clearer. Here's where price was rejected. Here's the upper 20. Here's the upper 25% zone. Hasn't changed any just because I changed time frames. The zones are still there. And now this is, I'm looking for a, came out of it. This was the first rejection. See, this one closed, 5-minute chart, closed below this zone. Now it's coming back up to make another run. Now I can slide this over here. As I change time zones, I can tweak it a little bit more on the 1 minute. This may answer Danielle's, but when you change zones, if I'm on a 15-minute chart, that this little dot may be way over here because it's not seeing the 1 minute candle. But this is the 1 minute chart, the 5-minute chart where that's where that candle is. There's the wick. Here's my pullback. Here's the close below. We have the green crossing the yellow. Now it's coming back. Right. So right now I'm looking at it to see if it's going to retest this area up in here. See if I'm going to get another higher, a lower high from here, somewhere along in here to, oh, say, I just call it somewhere around in this area. See if this is going to, see if this little area right here holds. If it does, this is the pullback. Now I can redraw my Fibonacci lines. Let's see, object list, fibs, delete. Okay, so here's my upper zone. Here's our upper trend line. Is this holding this pull back? Here's our A, B, C retracement. Now it's coming back up to retest. As it comes back up, I can draw another fib line to the now marking from here's my high, here's my low, where's my pullback. It did break out of the 25 right here. It broke and closed. Now it's retesting. Now I'm looking to see where is this, where's my pullback target to where I'd be looking at to come out into this for my target. Here's my target. And let's see, where's my, this would be my first target zone right here. How many pips? This is 29. That's a nice little pullback. I'm looking to see what range is it. Things are starting to work a little slow for me here. Here's my 23% of the pullback. This is the Fibonacci zone, the one to the downside. Here's my 50. Here's my 50 mark. It's coming up into retest. It's already coming up to retest the 60, the 61. I would not be surprised to see it test the 78 since this is the first rejection of the higher zone. And we're going to be looking at, I'm looking at this thing more going short to, when I get these, now I'm going to go to my 1 minute chart. I keep scaling down to the lowest time frame I have, which is the 1 minute. And I'm looking now for this green to cross over the yellow to the downside. If it does, maybe do a sell stop here. Here's my target. There's my $18 move. So right now, I like this thing to the downside. We have, here's our anchor, here's a hit. Now here's actually, I kind of like this a little bit better. This is the top where the zone is. Here was the first rejection. Let's take one up to the trend line here. Oh, we can take, I'm going to take it over here. Just take it over. There's the first, well, this is actually the origin of the down move. This is the origin of the down move that pulled it out at the bottom here. Came back up and retested it. Came back down to the bottom. Now it's coming back to retest again. So right now we have nothing. And now we're just waiting to see how deep is it going to go. Now this could be a just continuation on. It could be a head fake. But right now the fact it pulled out of here is starting to lose steam to the upside. And you have this zone right here. So now if this zone holds, we get a lower high somewhere in the middle of this zone. We have this little wick. It's got to get through this wick. It's got to get a close above this before I'd be wanting it to go higher. So this wick is significant. Here's our trend line. Actually, probably go with Here's our anchor. Here's our hit. Here's the break of it. Now the question is, can it break and close above this wick? Is there enough room? If I were to take this thing long off this bounce here, is there enough room here to get to the upside? That's an $8 move or €8 move. Barely enough. I like 15. So I would want to see it pull all the way back to here. There's a $20 move right there. If this is my target, I'm looking for a 15. I'm going to see it pull back to this area right in here before I would take it long. And then that would be, but now we have to start rethinking, is this thing going to go short or is it going to go long? Here's our 25% zone. We had to break. I still kind of favor this as a pullback to break to the downside. We just formed another zone here. So now all bets are off. Have to wait until we get a conclusion. This would be our new target since this zone just formed. And also this is a fairly deep retracement from the Fibonacci, which is up here, all the way down to here. It just retraced 50% of this down move. So from here to here, it retraced 50%. I like to see at least a 23. Well, once 23, it closed above the 38. Now it's retesting the 61. If this area can hold and it breaks through this trend line, I could possibly take a sell stop here, except for the fact we got this little pesky zone right here out in the way. That eliminates the trade. If that zone didn't hold up, we had this pullback enough to where it didn't generate a new zone here, then we could have used this for a target. But right now, this zone eliminates the setup that we were looking at. I was looking at this thing for a pullback and then take it short off the once it broke through. But right now, this has too much upward pressure, and it's just making probably another lower high. This is the wick we're looking at right there. It's got to break through that area. If it gets a close above that, it's probably going to go higher, but you got these zones right here in the way. So right now it's just making lower highs and higher lows until we get out of this area. So right now this is what happens a lot of times on a Monday. You just don't get the setup. It looks like it's trying to, but it doesn't confirm the setup. You move on to the next trade. Questions? Let's see, what else do we have here? This is a relatively strong pullback, but still, now it looks like it's testing these wicks. Here's our trend line, but we don't get this. It's still making a lower high at this point. As long as it keeps making a lower high, this zone is still valid as a bounce point. Based on this pivot here, here's my zone. If it comes up here and can't reject through this area, that tells me that this thing still has some strength to push it to the downside. This could possibly be an entry point off the wedge, and it could maybe. So with this one, if it comes up here, test this, we might be able to, if you wanted to try and take it short up here, with this for the target, there would be enough room to do that, but it's still basically inside your trend line. Here's the origin of this up move, which is where we have, this is a strong origin. Looking at this point, bring it up here. Right now, you could possibly, if you want to range trade this thing, you could take it short up here, target down here. Is there room? Possibly. Your risk would be the top of this zone. The risk, get in here, your risk is down here. If you get in up here, the risk is up here. It's relatively small risks. You just don't, you're kind of taking without having the moving averages in your direction. By the time it gets in your direction, it's going to be halfway through the trade. It's still basically in somewhat, it's trying to see if it's going to turn around, and if basically it's retesting its all-time highs is what it's doing right now. And this is where you can get yourself into a lot of trouble, where you say, oh, I'm going to take it short up here, but you're going to have to use the stop, which is the upper trend line right in here. This is really where your safest stop would be, is above here. But if this thing's going to go up higher, you're going to be, you're going to have to take some pretty small positions. And you can only, the smallest you can go is like 0.01. And that's still going to be a pretty good range that you have to use for this to be more like a swing trade as opposed to a scalping trade. And that's all I can say about that one. Anything else we have here? We have about another 10 minutes to go. I said, I'm not seeing anything. Everything's still sort of getting set up for the day. I do like this all in all, but it just, if that little pesky green zone wasn't there, I'd be apt to take this thing short right now. But right now it's kind of range bound. Moving averages aren't in the right direction. We're on a 1 minute chart. I want to see all the moving averages being in the correct direction. If it pulls back to the purple 200 and all the moving averages trade to the right side, and I have enough room to this top zone, I can take the trade. But it would have to pull all the way back to here, to here. I would have to have everything pull back, give me the right pattern on my moving averages on more than just one time. I would like to see it on the 5 minute as well. And right now, everything looks pretty good on the 5 minute. This has a pullback, but we're also pulling back right up into where the trap is.
Al, what are your thoughts on the UK 100?
Well, let's take a look at it. The UK 100 daily. Well, let's see. Let me try this again. UK 100, I'll go with a 15 minute. Expand it out. Put my moving averages on. All my moving averages are in the correct direction on our 15-minute chart. I like that. Here's my zone I'll be looking at. Let me see what the range is on this. From here, from the top of this zone to the pullback. That's $100 move. That's not bad for a range, actually. No bounce point. In fact, I can see there's a rejection off of this point. Here's our main move up. You can see here's the rocket ship coming up here, reach the top. Here's our pullback. This is probably going to be about a 20%. This is probably about the 20%. So I'm going to take it from, this is the last candle that left the zone. Take it up here to the top. Here's my 25. It pulled back out of the 25. That tells me that this is going to be a key to whether or not it's going to reverse or not. Here's our upper 25 zone. Here's the upper 25% to the end of the day. This is our playground for the day right now. And here's our 38, 60, 50, 61. 38 pullback. 50. Try and get these as close as I can. And this one is the 61. Here's my higher time frame targets. Everything is in the right direction to the upside, so it's got pressure to the upside. It's in the upper 25%. Here's the lower 25% down here. Again, I'm just doing everything the same every time. Just try and get my higher time frame, get my 25% zones, find out where the sideways range is. Here's the thing. Prices go sideways more than they trend. Now, the quick trick is just to find the trend in the sideways motion, which is what I'm doing. I'm trying to find the sideways motion, and now I'm looking for a trend inside that. And so now I'm going to come to my lower time frame. I'm going to come back down to a 5 minute chart. We'll just do it one step at a time to a 5 minute. This was a relatively strong it's sort of, you see how the price was very shallow here, no real sharp angle. And now it's just coming up to retest this area. If this can hold and I get another stronger move down off of this, get my Fibonacci out of the way here so I can redraw it. So now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a strong move down. I want to see this red zone hold, and I want to see a strong move down outside of the zone and close on a 5-minute chart. I want to see this thing come back. And it'd actually be nice if it got a little bit deeper, but if it, here's my first move down, here's my retracement, and then I'm looking for it to retrace back into the zone. Perhaps maybe retrace from here to here. This is our new Fibonacci. This is our new range that we're looking at. We're looking for the pullback. Here's my pullback zone. This is all projected. It hasn't happened yet. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this picture. From here to here to the 50. I usually like the 50. If this is a strong move down, it should only pull back. If it starts pulling back into the 61, I'm going to be rethinking it, maybe retesting. This might be the first wave. But right now, if it can come back and pull back to, like, say, the 38 to the 23 to 38 zone and turn around, and you can maybe take a shot at, let me just pull this up down a little bit here. If it can pull back to, say, like the 38 and maybe wick to the 50 but not close, then I'd be looking at a target of this for the pullback. So this would be wave 1, wave 2, and then a close inside there. This is the picture I'm looking for. And if it pulls back into here and my moving averages cross over into the right direction, get a close below this 200, get everything moving down, get the green crossing the yellow into this area. I can maybe do a sell stop here as it comes back down through on its way down to the target. That's the picture on the NASDAQ 100. Until then, no trade. We have 5 more minutes. We got time for one or two more questions.
Doesn't seem to be any at the moment.
Yeah, this is a good. Yeah, go back and listen to the recordings of this session today, because basically this is sort of explaining what we're looking for. We don't have any trade setups, but we're also showing you how we're drawing it, what we're looking for. Again, look for that, because I'm really looking for that ABC pullback on this one, come back up to maybe retest, confirm another trend line after that ABC. And now we're looking at once this happens, then we start looking for the close up below here, a pullback, close below here, a pullback, a close below there. That'd be your wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5, and then you're done with the trade. And you wait for the next setup. But here would be an ABC, it'd be ABC with a pullback, retest, and now we have, so this would be, this could pretty much be your wave 1. Here's your wave 2. Here's your wave 3. Here's your wave 4 pullback. And then here's your wave 5. And that's pretty much what I'm looking for. Here's your M. It comes up, breaks your M, comes back, retests the M. Now you have your pullbacks, your A's. The M followed by A, back to your zone. Okay. All right. That's about all I have to say about that.
We're almost done here.
We're almost done.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Cat Swiss 5-minute, not much. We can take a look at that real quick. Again, everything's range bound. Not much range here from here to here. We have, what do we have here? We have 8 pips. There's 16 pips. There's 20 pips. This zone would have to be gone. Once this zone goes away, I got a bounce. We could draw. Now you could maybe look for an arrow trade. Here's a bounce, arrow, go. But where you going to? You're going right into a green zone. Not you need 20 pips from this 5 minute. A bounce, arrow, go. Here's the go. 2 pips. You'd have to have that zone have to be away. This green zone would have to be away before you ever come up with your 20 pips to the next zone. And that may be another zone down. It's not even down here, but you got lots of red here. You're looking for a down move, but again, you got too many zones in the way to conclude it. If I go this to a 15-minute chart, you're range bound, no 15-minute arrow. You're inside the middle of these 15-minute, these green zones, these orange zones, and these are still valid. Here's my lower blue, here's my upper blue. Let's see what's the price on this here, right there at 74.75, call it. And slide this one over. Close enough. Without having to redraw all of these. Here's the bottom part. I'm just eyeballing this right now. But this is the range we're looking at now. It's still going sideways. Hasn't really changed any. These are our targets. These are our bounce points. And that's about all I have to say. Any last minute questions? If not, we're going to wrap this thing up for the day. Stay listen to the recording. Stay green. Stay patient. Don't be in a hurry to take the trade. Don't be in a hurry to lose your money. Be disciplined, and you'll be profitable. With that, thanks everybody for coming in. Appreciate your inputs, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, 7:30 to 9. See you then.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. See y'all tomorrow.